Greetings, my mystery mavens. I'm Tobol, your guide to the hidden corridors of history and the whispered legends of power. Welcome back to my blog, where history meets attitude and wonder knows no bounds. Today, we unveil the secrets of lost civilizations, taking you on a journey through time. Let's dive into the depths of our forgotten past. This thought-provoking exploration challenges the conventional narratives of history, revealing that our understanding of ancient civilizations may be fundamentally flawed. From the precision of the Great Pyramid to the mysterious humming jars, each segment unveils secrets that defy our expectations. Discover how the monumental structures we admire might be warnings from a lost world, urging us to reflect on our own civilization's fate. To help us redefine everything you thought you knew about the sea, I've brought along the brilliant Brian. So grab your coffee, fasten your seatbelts, and get ready for some serious celestial wisdom. Brian, the floor is yours.
Thanks, May. You always set the stage beautifully. Now let's explore how these challenging circumstances will transform our awareness and what they mean for the advancement of human understanding. The world is a palimpsest, and honestly, we've been erasing the wrong layers. History, as we've been taught to swallow it, is a rather polite, linear affair, a slow, dignified waltz from grunting cave dwellers to, smartphone-toting sophisticates. It's a comforting narrative, like a well-worn bedtime story. Once upon a time, we discovered fire, then the wheel, then democracy, then TikTok. Simple, predictable, safe. But what if this story is not merely incomplete, but fundamentally inverted? What if the grand monuments we gawk at, the pyramids, the megaliths, the impossible maps, are not the triumphant peaks of human ingenuity, but rather the desperate fading echoes of a far older, far stranger symphony? What if we are not the composers of civilization, but merely the inheritors of a ruined conservatory, fumbling with instruments we no longer understand how to play? This is not a tale of aliens in flying saucers, though. Honestly, the temptation is delicious. This is a story about us, about a lineage of human, or perhaps more than human, beings who walked this earth before the ice, before the flood, before the very concept of before was etched into our collective memory. They left behind a legacy not of simple tools, but of impossible geometries, of silent machines whispering secrets of the stars, and of warnings carved not in parchment, but in the very bedrock of our planet. To ignore their whispers is, well, to walk blindfolded through a minefield laid by our own ancestors. Let us begin, as all good heresies should, at the most iconic crime scene, the Giza Plateau. Every year millions flock to marvel at the Great Pyramid, that geometric titan rising from the sands. We are told it is a tomb, a vanity project for a pharaoh named Khufu, built by tens of thousands of sweating slaves armed with copper chisels and an unshakable belief in the afterlife. It's a story as solid as the limestone blocks themselves. Until you actually look, consider the logistics. 2 million blocks, each weighing as much as an SUV, some internal granite monoliths tipping the scales at 80 tons, a figure that would give a modern crane operator pause. The official explanation? Ramps. Gigantic mile-long earthen ramps that would have required more material than the pyramid itself. And where, pray tell, are the remnants of these engineering marvels? Vanished like a magician's assistant. Poof. Then there's the precision. The base is a near-perfect square, half a football field on each side, yet deviating from true level by less than a centimetre. Its sides are aligned to the cardinal points with an accuracy of 3 arc minutes, so precise that modern surveyors with GPS often fail to match it. And they did this, we are assured, without the wheel, without steel, and without a theodolite. It's like claiming a toddler built a Swiss watch with, a rock and a piece of string. But the true heresy lies not in the how, but in the why. If it's a tomb, where's the body? The so-called king's chamber is empty, its granite sarcophagus rough-hewn and unadorned, a stark contrast to the flawless engineering surrounding it. It feels less like a sacred resting place and more like a machine room. What if the pyramid's perfect proportions, its uncanny alignment with celestial bodies and its internal chambers tuned to specific resonant frequencies, are not accidents of aesthetics, but a deliberate encoded message? A message written in the universal language of mathematics and astronomy, whispering constants like pi and phi, knowledge we wouldn't discover for millennia, into the ears of any future civilization advanced enough to listen. Perhaps the slaves weren't hauling stones at all. Maybe, just maybe, they were actually acolytes chanting harmonic frequencies that made granite as pliable as wet clay, floating blocks into place with focused sound waves. The pyramid, then, isn't a tomb, it's a battery, a resonator, a stone-bound computer calculating the music of the spheres. Or, most chillingly, a warning beacon, its very geometry screaming across the millennia. We were here. We knew. And we fell. From the sun-baked sands of Egypt, we journeyed to the dizzying heights of the Andes, to a place called Sacsayhuaman. Here the stones don't just sit, they embrace. We're not talking about neat uniform bricks. We're talking about monstrous 100-ton boulders, each with a unique, chaotic, multifaceted shape, fitted together with such impossible precision that not even a razor blade can slip between them. It's a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle crafted by giants with the patience of gods. The textbook answer: the Inca, bless their industrious hearts, spent centuries chipping away with stone hammers, trial and erroring each block into submission. It's a story of heroic, mind-numbing labor. It's also, quite frankly, nonsense. Look at the joints. They aren't blunt, rounded scars from hammering. They're sharp, clean, almost surgical lines with complex internal curves that no hammer, stone or bronze could ever reach. Why, if you can quarry and move a 100-ton rock, would you choose the most difficult, least efficient shape possible? Why not make it a nice, simple cube? The only logical conclusion is that for the builders, shaping stone wasn't labor, it was art. It was as easy for them to carve a complex polygon as it is for us to mold Play-Doh. The stones weren't forced into place. They were coaxed, perhaps even melted into their perfect unions, as if the granite itself had briefly forgotten its solidity. And nearby, at Pumapunku in Bolivia, the mystery deepens. Here we find standardized identical blocks of diorite, one of the hardest stones on Earth, cut with machine-like precision, featuring perfectly straight edges, intricate interlocking grooves, and holes drilled with a smoothness that demands diamond-tipped tools. This isn't construction, it's manufacturing. It's a glimpse into a world where matter was not an adversary to be conquered, but a partner to be conducted. You know, we've been conditioned to believe that our mastery of energy and information is a recent, hard-won triumph. The light bulb, the microchip, these are supposed to be the pinnacles of our genius. But history, it seems, has a wicked sense of humor. In the dusty basement of the National Museum of Iraq sits a humble 13-centimeter tall clay pot. Discovered near Baghdad in 1936, it was long dismissed as a ritual vessel, until, well, someone looked inside. A copper cylinder, an iron rod, an asphalt plug. Fill it with vinegar or grape juice and voila, you have a working 1.5-volt battery. A battery created 2,000 years before Volta's official discovery. The establishment's explanation? Oh, they probably just used it to electroplate cheap trinkets. A tidy theory, except for one inconvenient truth. Archaeologists have never found a single electroplated artifact from that time and place. So what was the electricity for? Medical acupuncture, lighting tombs without soot, or perhaps, just perhaps, powering something else entirely, something we haven't even imagined yet. Then we dive into the Aegean Sea, off the coast of Antikythera. In 1901, sponge divers hauled up a corroded lump of bronze from a Roman shipwreck. For decades it just sat there, ignored. Then, in the 1950s, X-rays revealed its secret, a breathtakingly complex mechanism of at least 37 interlocking gears. The Antikythera mechanism was an analog computer, capable of predicting lunar and solar eclipses, tracking the movements of the sun and moon, and even marking the dates of the Olympic Games. It was a masterpiece of Hellenistic engineering. Or was it? The true horror of the Antikythera mechanism isn't its complexity, but its isolation. Where are its ancestors? Where are the clumsy prototypes, the simpler models with 2 or 3 gears? There are none. It appears in the historical record like a ghost, fully formed and utterly alone, a technological singularity. The next device of comparable sophistication wouldn't appear for another 1400 years. It's as if a perfectly functioning iPhone were found in a Neanderthal campsite. The knowledge embedded within it, like the elliptical orbit of the moon, wasn't discovered until Kepler, millennia later. This wasn't an invention, it was a relic, a last lonely survivor of a scientific tradition that had already been lost to the waves of time. In 1929, in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, a map was found. Drawn on gazelle skin in 1513 by the Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis, it was initially seen as a compilation of contemporary charts, perhaps even including some lost maps from Columbus himself. It showed Europe and Africa with startling accuracy. And then there was the southern landmass, a strange, elongated coast that historians dismissed as a cartographic error, a clumsy attempt to fill empty space. They were wrong. Modern analysis, overlaying Piri Reis's map with seismic data, revealed a terrifying truth. That error matches, with uncanny precision, the subglacial coastline of Antarctica, the landmass as it existed before it was buried under a mile of ice. Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until 1820, and its hidden topography wasn't mapped until the space age. So, who charted this ice-free continent? And when? Geological evidence suggests the last time that coastline was exposed was at least 6,000 years ago, possibly much earlier, a time when, according to our textbooks, humanity was just learning to farm. Piri Reis himself admitted his map was a copy, compiled from some 20 older sources, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. This map is not a mistake. It is a photograph, a snapshot of a world that vanished. It is proof, etched in ink and parchment, of a global high-technology civilization that possessed the means to map the entire planet with satellite-like precision, long before we convinced ourselves we were the first to do so. Our story takes a darker, more personal turn in the sun-scorched hills of southeastern Turkey at a site called Göbekli Tepe. Dated to around 12,000 years ago, it shatters the established timeline. Here, millennia before Stonehenge, before the pyramids, before agriculture was even supposed to have taken root, nomadic hunter-gatherers erected a colossal temple complex. Dozens of massive T-shaped pillars, weighing up to 20 tons, arranged in precise circles, adorned with intricate carvings of animals and celestial symbols. The official spin. This place is the cradle of civilization, the very reason agriculture was invented, to feed the workers building this sacred site. A beautiful circular logic, but look closer. The pillars aren't randomly placed, they are aligned with the stars, Sirius, Orion, the Pleiades. The entire complex functions as a sophisticated observatory capable of tracking the 26,000-year precessional cycle of the Earth's axis. Why would hunter-gatherers, whose lives depended on tracking gazelles, not galaxies, need such a device? And then there's the vulture stone. Many researchers believe it is not mere decoration, but a celestial memorial. The animals carved upon it correspond to constellations, and their positions match the night sky as it appeared around 10,950 BCE, the very time a swarm of comet fragments is theorized to have struck Earth, triggering a sudden, devastating mini-ice age known as the Younger Dryas. What if Göbekli Tepe is not the cradle but the tombstone? What if it was built not by primitive people reaching for the stars but by survivors, refugees from a cataclysmic event, the very event that wiped the ice-free Antarctica off the map? They weren't building a new religion, they were erecting a monument to a lost world, encoding the date of its death in stone for us to find. This leads us to the most unsettling practice of all cranial deformation. From Peru to Egypt, from Malta to Siberia, ancient elites would bind the heads of their infants, stretching their skulls into elongated alien shapes. We're told it was a fashion statement, a mark of elite status. But why this specific, painful, globally ubiquitous fashion? And why do some of these skulls, like those from Paracas, Peru, have cranial capacities 25 to 50% larger than ours, with bone structures that defy human anatomy? What if they weren't imitating a fashion, but a form? What if the gods and teachers from the myths, the bearded sages who came from across the sea, naturally possessed these elongated skulls? What if the binding was a desperate biological attempt to replicate a neural architecture capable of perceiving frequencies, of interfacing with technologies based on sound and vibration, of accessing knowledge fields beyond our mundane reality? These weren't just rulers, they were operators, bioengineered antennae tuned to receive the whispers of a lost science. We have walked among the giants, we have touched their machines, deciphered their maps, and felt the echo of their songs in the silent stones. We have seen the evidence of a global cataclysm, a comet strike 12,800 years ago that left a layer of soot and nanodiamonds across the planet, triggering floods that drowned coastal cities. From Japan to India, cities whose ruins now lie silent beneath the waves. We have heard the universal myth of the flood, not as a fairy tale, but as a traumatized collective memory passed down through the DNA of survivors. The conclusion is inescapable. History is not linear, it is cyclical. Civilizations rise, they reach for the stars, they master forces we can scarcely imagine, and then they fall. Sometimes to fire from the sky, sometimes to the hubris of their own creations. The pyramids, the megaliths, the maps, the mechanisms, they are not trophies of our ascent, they are gravestones. They are the desperate final messages of a people who saw the end coming and tried with all their might to warn us. They encoded their knowledge in the only language they knew would survive, the language of mathematics, written in the geometry of their greatest monuments. They are shouting at us across the abyss of time, not to marvel at their power, but to heed their warning. We stand today on the precipice of our own technological adolescence, playing with nuclear fire and artificial minds, convinced of our own uniqueness. We gaze upon the ruins of Göbekli Tepe or the precision of the Great Pyramid and see primitive curiosities. But what if we are the primitives? What if we are the amnesiac children, dancing on the graves of our brilliant fallen parents, utterly unaware of the cycle that is already turning? The question is no longer who were they. The question is, will we hear them in time? Look up, listen, remember, before the next cycle claims us too.
And there you have it, my lovers of the labyrinth. Remember, every challenge is just a stepping stone to greatness. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe so we can keep exploring together, and drop a comment to share your thoughts. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and keep chasing those dreams.